Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dream Oracle for You. I am your host, Sarah, and this is episode 36, our first episode post the live. And today I am so excited for today's episode. I know we say that about every podcast, but today is going to be a special flavor for Dream Oracle for You because we have a neuroscientist in the mix who's going to introduce herself a little bit more, but Dr.
Raise the
Valerie,
roof.
Dr. Valerie Rytova. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly.
You have, but it's
Oh,
actually Valeria. You mispronounced my first name.
darn it! How did I do that?
That's okay. That's
It's
okay. You're not the first. You won't be the last.
how do you say it was? What did you say, Valerie? What? No.
It's, no, it's Valeria.
Oh,
Remember, I'm from
Valeria.
Russia, so it's Valeria. Even though that's a Latin name, but hey.
Yeah, that's funny. I always mess up last names. I never thought I would mess up a first name. Oh well, that's okay. As always, we have my wonderful co-host and her co-host. What's his name again? Oh, please tell me, Biljana. I always forget.
Tarrant.
Tarrant, that's it. We have the lovely
Yeah.
Tarrant with us as well. And we'll ask Biljana to welcome us to the call, and then we'll ask Val to introduce herself, and then we'll just, as always, let the conversation flow.
Yeah, I'm excited about this episode too because I suppose we've had just a variety of different guests, but to have a scientist on to get a different perspective about dreams, it's really exciting because depending on how you function in the world, which side of the brain you use the most. So it's good to get a bit of both. I actually so checked out your website and everything, and see you got a course about neuroplasticity, and I actually come across that in, I think it was 2009, 2010, and there was a book that came out, The Brain That Changes Itself. Was it
Yeah.
Norman
Deutsch.
Doge?
Yeah,
Yeah, Deutsch,
Norman
yeah.
Deutsch.
And I was like really fascinated about that. So I think back, it's 2025 now that I was drawn to it back then. So yeah, come like full circle back to neuroplasticity. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, about your, if you want to touch on your course, whether now or at the end, because it'd be fascinating to hear about that. Have you started the course yet?
Sure. Well, yeah, now that you ask, yeah, I have. I've ran it twice and I'm about to run it
Yep.
a third time, but within a different setting. I've offered it for the general public a couple of times and they kind of ate it up and loved it. And now I've been asked by the Australian Psychological Association to run it for the psychologists that are into meditation, yoga, stuff like that. So I'm going to be doing that there. And I'm really excited. Um, but that's the long answer to your question. Yes, I've ran it. People loved it. And from all sorts of backgrounds, like I've got mums with neurodivergent kids, I've got clinical psychologists, I've got yoga practitioners, breathwork people, energy workers, like you name it, they're into it, which I'm really thrilled about because the purpose of me taking neuroscience out of the lab and to the public is really getting fulfilled through this course. That's one way, and through the podcast that I'm on, and through my own podcast. Like my whole thing is to take the neuroscience out of the lab, bring it to the people, see what happens.
So
Yeah.
amazing, and so much respect as a fellow PhD myself. With chemistry as my background, and it's a little bit harder to
Yeah,
bridge that to that gap to the general public. So many people are so afraid of chemistry, but
myself included. I just remember that organic chemistry test that I failed, so that's that.
I
um,
personally believe it comes down to the teacher, right? If you don't have a good teacher, then you're not going to learn it as well.
yeah, that teacher was an asshole. Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. This is not this. I always flag it as not for kids. So
Oh, good. Good. That my 9-year-old's not going to be watching this on YouTube later. That's perfect.
yeah. Well, did you want to give a little introduction to yourself? I know we know you're a neuroscientist and you have this course that you're doing, but anything else that we should know about you?
Sure, sure. Well, listen, I think we've covered a lot of it already. I kind of gave it away. I was born in Russia. raised in Montreal. I sound a little bit funny, but I live in Australia, so I have been here for like 12 years because I came here to do my PhD, never left. Here we are. I'm a 3811-2 life path, in case you're wondering. I know you had no
3811.
my favorite numerologist and guide on the show, Georgina. So I'm obsessed with numerology as well. So I'm a neuroscientist who's numerology obsessed. Um, and I've got two kids. I've got a baby, like an 18-month-old baby and a 9-year-old. They're both very gifted kids, and I love them. What else? I'm spiritually inclined, given my numbers. And yeah, I'm a behavioral neuroscientist. I guess that's the qual. I'm a behavioral neuroscientist. I did my PhD on the underlying mechanisms of fear-related behavior, anxiety-related behaviors, as well as social behavior. And I loved it. And then I did a postdoc for a number of years, like over 4 years, in neurodegenerative conditions, so Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, motor neuron disease, all that. And then after COVID, I took it out of the lab. So I'm mainly teaching at university now. That's how that's one of my things that I do, professionally, but also I started running my own business, bringing the neuroscience out of the lab into the people. And as part of that, I offer like neuroscience consulting. I run the Neuroplasticity and Epigenetics course. I run the Neuro-spiritual Awakening podcast with Dr. Val. Yeah, talking to people about the awakening process. I think I've covered most of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, I absolutely love your podcast. So if anybody listening has not heard of Dr. Val's the Neuro-spiritual Awakening podcast, highly recommend it. I always look forward to an episode, and I think I've watched every single one that you've put out. I haven't quite finished the most recent with the twin flame, but I've got
Yes.
partway through it.
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm thrilled you love it. I'm really into it. Not because I run it. I mean, yes, because I run it, but also because I'm amazed by the people that come on the show, what they share. Like, as you say, the twin flame specialist. Like, if you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have been like, twin flame, what? Now
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, there's this whole thing, awakening through that process. How amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, okay, I've got two places that I want to start, but I think we should kind of ease into the dream category, and then we can tie in the neuroscience kind of flavor to that. But as I know you prefaced this, I don't know if this was before we hit recording or not, that you said that you're not a sleep expert or anything like that. But as we've had other guests on the show, one of the criteria to be on the show is just simply, do you dream? And if you dream, then you're meant to be here to talk about dreams. And so our first question we always ask all of our guests is just simply, what do you think dreams are? Or what are dreams to you? Some people think they're actually, no, I'm not going to give you any pre information. I just want to hear what you have to say.
All right. Perfect. Well,
And it doesn't
listen,
have to be neuroscience-y, just from you in your world, what are dreams?
Sure. Well, given that I'm a neuroscientist, I will give a little spiel about that. But yeah, I'll tell you from my world, I do dream, so I'm glad that I qualify to be on the podcast. And I do remember my dreams, and my dreams really bring me places. So other dimensions, past lifetimes, alternate parallel universes, alternate timelines. I remember my dreams well. That's where I connect with my, spirit team, my guides. I know that. Um, yeah, that's kind of how it is for me as a human being living this life right now. And then from a neuroscientific perspective, of course, that's where my prefrontal cortex shuts off. And I get to really roam freely without that thing fucking controlling my life. So it's just like I'm really thrilled for it because, in the awake state, there's a lot of activity going on up there, which I'm thankful for, but I really do love that the neuroscience behind me dreaming and knowing that my prefrontal cortex just disengages. It has a rest so that I can really, really explore what I don't explore when I'm awake.
Amazing. My first question is, especially for somebody who has like no background in any sort of neuroscience, or I've obviously have heard of the prefrontal cortex, but I have no idea what it does other than you just said it shuts off when I sleep. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. What does that mean?
Yeah. Perfect. Well, what it does, what the prefrontal cortex is at the front of your brain, given its name, prefrontal, it's over here. It is a brain area that I call the CEO of your brain because it literally is like the executive. It does all the executive functions. It gives you your problem solving abilities, your analytical skills, your emotional regulation, um, capacity, your sense of self, like who you know yourself to be as a persona, as a personality that lives in there. It really governs a lot of function. But it also can become the enemy. In my case, I'm a neuroscientist. Yeah, I like to use it during the daily life, but it also impedes with other activities, like when I want to engage in heart-led activities, really like relate to people from my heart space. The prefrontal cortex gets in the fucking way. So, because it tries to regulate what I do express emotionally and stuff like that, which is its function, which is great. But
Yeah, so
it's
you
not
would
so
say it's
active.
like
Yeah,
sorry to overtalk on you. So
that's
you'd say
fine.
it's kind of like the logic side of the brain versus the intuitive side kind of thing.
Yeah, it is definitely part of the logic. However, let me debunk one thing. I mean, it's not like I'm debunking it, but there is this myth that there is, the right creative, the left, and sorry, yeah, the right creative, the left analytical or logical side of the brain. The brain hemispheres are in intricate communication with one another, right? They're mirror images. You've got an amygdala on both sides, you've got a hippocampus and all of that on both sides of the brain. And it is not so much that one side is intuitive, the other is logical. It's more that how are they communicating with one another? So I do believe that's from my view and my research as a neuroscientist. You can't just say, hey, the left brain does that, the right brain does that, because it actually works together. But in the way I think they're connected differently in people that are more intuitively inclined in terms of their behaviors versus logic. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
it does. Yeah, I
And
suppose it's like when you're trying to explain like the two aspects of like how our brain functions, it's like easy to like separate the two. I get that. But in terms of like how the brain looks and everything, like yeah, nothing's separate. Everything is connected. So
totally.
yeah, yeah.
If you look at it, yeah,
But
if
that's
you
good.
look at it,
Yeah.
yeah. No, go ahead.
No,
I'm
no,
talking
you go.
over you. Yeah, if you look at an MRI, like at activity, right, at brain activity of an individual that is, let's say, a channeler, a spirit guide, like somebody who does that kind of stuff, right? Let's say Rachel Vaughn. If you look at her brain, you're not going to see just one part of the brain light up when she channels. No, that the whole thing, both hemispheres will light up because she's using both of them. The brain's active. Um, versus if you look at me, it's not like one side's more than the other either. It's all active, but the way that they're connected is definitely different from person to person, and that's the beauty of the individual human experience.
And just the
Yeah,
growth, because my understanding is, I mean, you teach a whole course on neuroplasticity. So I only know just the little bits that I've heard in the term being thrown around. But my understanding of neuroplasticity is basically new connections being made in the brain as you develop, evolve, as you become more intuitive or not, they change.
Yes, yes, it is partly what it is. Neuroplasticity is the capacity of our brain to rewire itself based on new experiences. And sleep is actually one of those things you really need for them to get embedded, like new connections. When you do form new connections, let's say I'm learning how to perceive auras, right? That's like the new neural path, which is the case. I'm kind of, I took Rachel's course. Now I'm really into auras and I want to see people's auras. So I'm like always scoping people in their and what their aura looks like. But I haven't got the neural pathways for it. They're not strengthened, so to speak. But once I'm forming them, it then allows me the practice of it, the repetitive. If I do repeat them, like it's brain gym, right? You just repeat the behavior in order for that neural pathway to become the go-to pathway of your brain. Yeah, just practice, just like learning a language, any new skills for neuroplasticity to first occur, but then be embedded. Repetition is crucial, and also sleep is crucial, because during sleep, neuroplasticity really, those new connections are then strengthened, and the old connections are what is called pruned away. It literally is called pruning, like kind of shrivel up and disappear.
because they don't need them anymore.
Yeah,
It's
I
it's
love
in,
that. I actually had a dream about, because I'm doing Rachel's course at the moment, and I actually had a dream about, I think it was a little child, and I just saw the aura so clearly. So I think it's like you say, it's that the process of like receiving all the information, and you need time during your sleep to process it all. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to when I do see them, very obviously. So
How
yeah,
amazing. Oh, I love that. I
yeah,
love that you're doing a course and that you're into that. I'm definitely into it. So
yeah.
yeah,
yay,
yeah,
yay for those neural connections being formed.
yeah,
And so, like, I would imagine then, so if you can develop a connection with aura reading, then also kind of a telepathic or just a communication with nature sort of thing, you're going to start forming those sorts of pathways as well. And kind of like Biljana having a recent dream, I've really been connecting with nature lately a lot. Um, so much so that my fiance has been calling me Cinderella because I have this communication with birds. So I
Mm.
have hummingbirds that come and I put fresh food out for them every other day. And I put the food out. I'm like, okay, hummingbirds, fresh food, come get it. Today, when I went out, I hadn't even fully hung it up and they were there like waiting. And I just put the call out. So it's like super cool. And then I had a dream this week where I actually was communicating with like a hawk, and it like for some reason I don't know the understand the cake why the cake was there, but it wanted a piece of cake.
Yum.
So it came
Yep.
over, and then I was like, oh, it's like I would really like to pet you. Can you like come over so I can pet you? And I was doing this all just with my mind. And it came over, and then I was like able to just like pet it. It was just like the most fascinating dream to interact with animals in your dreams. So
Wow. I would have loved to pet a cake eating hawk. It's awesome. I mean, but don't you love dreams in that sense? Like
yeah.
there's so, they really in your dreams, I fly often or like,
Yes.
flying in dreams, like it's incredible. And I'm like, you know what? At some point, that's possible. That will become possible. We just haven't developed the neural pathways for it from my perspective as a neuroscientist. And I'm sure there's aerodynamics involved and stuff like that too. But
Maybe.
yeah,
No, oh,
it,
that's super cool.
yeah, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in our dream state, it's pretty magical.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this actually is a kind of a good way where I wanted to swing back to what you were talking about. I think this was what your PhD was based on, or maybe it's just your background in general, but like focusing on sort of the anxiety and fear behavioral side of things. And then I
Yeah.
would love to hear your perspective on that and dreams, because I know like a lot of people can have, bad dreams, nightmares, and whatnot. And previously in our podcast, we've talked about it from a frequency perspective, where if you're in a lower vibrational state, then you're more likely to have, more anxiety and more of these lower vibrational emotions. And then that ties over into the dream state. But is there a behavioral neuroscientist or neuroscience flavor to that?
yeah. Geek out on us. Go on, go. You can geek.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nerd
Geek
out.
out. Nerd out. Let's
Nerd
do it.
out.
For the public.
Well, perfect. Perfect. Listen, yes, so the neural pathways underlying fear-related behavior are based on survival. So there is a primordial structure in your brain. It's very deep. So it's deep, like literally physically deep in your brain, right? It's not on the outer layers of the neocort where the neocortex is, but it's literally a deep structure, meaning that it's been evolutionarily conserved across species, across time. Your dog has it, cat, lizards, animals like that, and human beings. it's called the limbic system, right? So the limbic system is that system that is really important for survival. It involves a bunch of brain areas like the hippocampus, which is the memory processing store, like place of your brain, the amygdala, which is the emotional processing center, the prefrontal cortex as well as part of that system, and a bunch of others, right? So that system is active whenever we are under real or perceived threat. So whether you're like running away from a lion, or you wake up and you have generalized anxiety because, the world's fucked, the limbic system gets activated, right? And when I say the world's fucked, that's your perception, that is the perceived threat. Or or maybe you just like don't want to wake up because you don't want to face your mom, dad, or whoever lays next to you. That's also perceived threat. But on a brain level, it's very real because it activates the limbic system. And of course, given neuroplasticity and repetition is what we talked about earlier, if that system is active over and over and over again, which in most cases, in most human beings, it really is, given it just is, we're kind of in fight or flight or in survival mode all the time. And that's what the system's for. It's to help us survive, that's the design of it. But hey, if you want to live a life beyond survival, you kind of, maybe that's not the only system that you've got to engage.
So what
However, if it's the system that's running the show during daytime, it's likely to be running the show during nighttime as well, because it is, given neuroplasticity, the go-to pathway of your brain.
is there a way, do you think, to influence your sleep and dream space to kind of counteract that? Like if all of the neuroplasticity and the development of those connections are happening when you're sleeping, do you think from a spiritual perspective and being able to set intentions and have that kind of outlook can impact your sleep and dream space such that you can flip the switch for your waking life?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you like set an intention prior to going to sleep, you're consciously, trying to alter the subconscious, right? Just before going to bed. And, on an energetic level, of course, that has an impact as well. But yeah, from a neuroscience perspective, definitely, if you kind of focus yourself or your whole being on an intention before going to sleep, and whether that intention is for protection, or you want to meet your spirit animals, or, travel into different galaxies, whatever. Whether that occurs or not, I don't know, but setting that intention and priming that neural pathway prior to going to bed, of course, makes a difference. It's like, again, neuroplasticity, training the brain. And then when you sleep, maybe you won't dream of intergalactic adventures that same night, but hey, if you set that intention over and over and over again, I would think that there's more chance for it.
I'm
Whilst you're
glad to hear
sleeping.
you say that, because we talk about intention setting before going to sleep all the time. And it's nice to hear a neuroscientist like, yeah, of course that'll work.
Well, yes, because there's a system in your brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS, and it is important for sleep, but it's also important for filtering stuff out. A lot of manifestation, or experts in manifestation who call themselves that, they talk about it, but it's pure neuroscience. If you talk about the little red car, the RAS will filter little red cars all over the place, and that's what you'll see. Or if you get pregnant or trying to get pregnant, you're going to see pregnant chicks everywhere, just because that's the way that your brain works. It'll filter out everything that's not that and focus your attention on that. So if you focus your attention on intention prior to going to bed, your brain's going to filter out anything that's not that intention before you go to sleep, and hopefully whilst you're sleeping.
Wonderful. I love hearing the science. The scientist in me is like, hell yeah, I don't really understand neuroscience, but this is so good.
Yeah, and one more thing before the next thing. So there are studies, actually read a study on lucid dreaming, a science study, right? Published in a scientific journal, peer review, all that stuff. But this study was really interesting because they were talking about or researching lucid dreaming and the effect that it has on major depressive disorder, and almost using it as a tactic to as an antidepressant technique, ultimately, like training people, taking lucid dreamers, looking at their brains, looking at their lifetime and saying, hey, lucid dreamers are actually not depressed, versus people who are, and then training them to lucid dream by setting an intention to lucid dream prior to dreaming. Very interesting study. I'll send it to you later, but that's, I
Yeah,
guess,
no,
one of
that'd be
the,
great.
it goes in line with what we're
Yeah,
talking about.
Absolutely.
that's awesome because that can be so empowering for people to take control of something they feel like they can't control. Because a lot of people think that, being awake and our dreams are separate. So, like, for them
Mm.
to realize it's all one, it's just a different perspective. Like when you're asleep, it's you know, just another way of processing information. So if people can't empower themselves when they're awake, if they can do it when they're asleep, that's a really helpful tool. So yeah, I love that. What's the name of that article? Love to read it.
I'll have to send it to you. I don't remember
Yeah,
it from the top of my brain, and then you can
yeah,
pop it in the show notes if you want, because it's a really good
yeah,
study and I think it's very explorative. That's the kind of science that I'm really into, and unfortunately, that's not the kind of science that gets funded. But I love
Yeah.
to I laugh, but it's like a nervous laugh because the reality is that's what's so.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
but I do love the explorative aspect of science, and that's why I'm a neuroscientist because I love exploring.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, very cool.
And it'll be relevant to a lot of people. Like even if you're not, I suppose, depressed or like everyone's had like the down moments, but to everyone would be able to relate to it. So it'd be a very interesting read for anyone.
Absolutely. I was even taken back by the fact that you can intentionally induce lucid dreaming because prior to reading that study, I was like, oh, well, you either lucid dream or you don't. And then I was like, oh, you can train yourself to do that. Hang on, that's what I've been talking about as a neuroscientist who's into neuroplasticity. You can train the brain. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And lucid dreaming is so much fun when it happens, when you have the control. And so you mentioned that you have flying dreams. Are your flying dreams lucid?
No, I'm
Ah,
there in the realms.
okay.
Well, look, I mean, not every, maybe a couple of them have been where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm flying. This is great. I'm in a dream. I'm flying. I know that I'm flying. This is awesome. I wish I could fly when I'm not dreaming, but here we are. But yeah, some of them. I mean, look, some of them are not. Um, but my dreams are very like I know that wherever I go in my dreams is just an alternate, or an extension of this reality, as Biljana, you're saying. That I'm very attuned to. And some places I really enjoy, and some places not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any dreams you want to share?
Oh, the one last night was wild because it's just so fresh. They're always so fresh with me. This one was, so a lot of my dreams, I'm also being chased in like a gun chase, like in the movies, right? Like I'm like jumping story buildings to run away. And there's always like a compatriot, like some compadre or a partner of mine. We're always being chased by these gun people. So that was part of it. And then there was this really hot Italian guy who bought me some really great gelato. So I really love how it went from one to that. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the pistachio and the tiramisu gelato. It was just delicious.
Hmm.
Um, that was part of my dream last night. That's all. That's all. I think that's all for now. But the chasing, yeah, I
Yeah.
must have been chased a lot in my past lives because I'm always like,
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
always being chased.
have you leaned in intuitively to see if it's a past life or if it's like parallel or if it's future? And I mean, I do believe that we do a lot of soul work and spiritual work while we're sleeping and in the dream state. So like maybe you're like
A
some
hundred
kind of
percent.
secret agent traveling timelines, doing things to
Yeah.
help timelines along and make them better.
Yes. No, I haven't explored that far yet, but it's definitely up for grabs. I will. I will explore that arena. Just not.
Cool.
I haven't yet.
No, no.
Um, but I do know that I've had a lot of past lives as a green witch, so I wouldn't be surprised that I've been chased a lot in that sense. And a lot of Viking past lives, like, Scandinavia type past lives, where, well, there's a lot of fighting and running away and chasing. So that's that
Mm.
too. Um,
Do
But
you
in terms of
Are you watching
oh,
yourself getting chased,
oh
or are
yeah.
you
yeah,
actually first person?
both. So I'm
Yeah.
first person experiencing it and also watching it and like knowing that I'm also dreaming about it. Yeah, lucid dreaming, yeah. Very interesting. But what I wanted to say before we hop on to the next thing, yeah, a lot of stuff does happen in your dream. A lot of healing happens in the dreams, as you say. We heal a lot in our dream state. So if you're not, so just for the listeners, if you're someone who's like, hey, I'm not into therapy, therefore I'll never heal, that's erroneous. That was like, I literally used to think like that. I was like, you know what, unless you're actively doing healing work out here in reality, you're like not doing it. And then I discovered this whole like, dude, you're healing in your dream state, maybe even more than you are in this 3D. So that's very exciting. That's very exciting.
Absolutely. And that resonates. I think I've been quoted on this podcast, or I've quoted myself on this podcast, I'll say, by saying that dreams are an opportunity to have an 8-hour therapy session every night.
Oh, good. I love that quote. I might quote you on it later.
Oh, sure. Go for it. It's awesome.
Hmm.
Biljana,
Do you
you
have
Yeah.
got
any
any
questions, Sarah?
questions?
Um, I never have questions. I like just like chatting.
I know, but I want to, you're my co-host. I got to share the stage. I can't be I, I,
I did
I
have
like to,
something. It kind of just
it's
what
because I talk
left.
too much. Because I like to talk, so I don't want to like steal the stage too much.
Oh, that's okay. I like
No,
to
that's
talk
all right.
too, so we can. That's why we're all here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, we always like to ask, just because even though you're a neuroscientist, it's good to just ask you as a being of like just how you dream, like first person, um, bird's eye view kind of dreams. What do you take notice in your dreams? Symbols, numbers, colors, for me, colors don't really stand out as much. And
No,
numbers it's a new thing for me. Like ever since like we had Georgina on, like numbers are popping up in my like when I'm awake. Like yesterday
yeah.
I had 23 three times within the space of, half an hour. So, and that's
183 or
significant for
3.
me. 23,
Oh,
the number
23. Yeah.
23. Yeah.
Are you a
Yep.
23 life
Like I was
path?
no, no,
Okay.
it's my friend's birthday coming up next week on the 23rd. So
Okay.
there's
Mine's on the
something, but yeah,
25th, so
so
maybe that one's fun. Yeah.
interesting. So like I suppose like yeah, what do you take notice of in your dreams in that sense?
For me, it's feelings, it's sentiments, it's how I feel. But I'm
Yeah.
a Cancerian sun, you know, and that's my mode of communication. My Mercury's in Cancer as well. And also, so is my human design. I feel through the world and I feel through my dreams. And if you're talking about numerology and the numerological chart, I've got 7 numbers in there. And the middle line's called the emotional line, and mine's completely full. So I feel that's how I get around my dreams. I feel before, during, and after. Yeah, and I do
Yeah.
have photographic memory, so I'll just remember what it looks like, like that just comes with it. But it's just part of my makeup.
Yeah, cool. And what about like colors or because for me it's more like a grayscale, like my dreams. So the colors don't stand out for me when I wake up.
Sure, sure. No, for me, it's not black and white. It is, I do dream in color, and it's very like, it's very real, so to speak. And another thing that happens in our dream state is our emotional centers get activated a lot. So especially for me, who feels through life a lot, I the fact that I can feel even more because the prefrontal cortex disengages and stops regulating my emotions so much. So I can feel even more during sleep. And that's why some dreams actually get memorized a lot better. Because whenever you pair a memory with an emotion, that's the whole basis of things like PTSD, unfortunately, or very joyful experiences. When you pair a memory with an emotion, you can just remember it that much better. Um, yeah, but no colors. Numbers recently, yes, just like yourself, because again, during the 3D state. I've taken, the numerology course with Georgina. I'm obsessed with numerology. I see numbers everywhere, not to the same extent as she is, of course. I'm not, but really into it. And so it just translates over into my dreams as well, because of the thing that we spoke about before, neuroplasticity. Once you've formed the neural pathway and you've trained it enough, it'll become the go-to pathway that your brain goes to. Because the brain's a lazy thing. It won't go there until, it thinks it's a good one. Or you train it.
Right. So how do numbers
Yeah.
come across for you in dreams? Do you see a clock on the wall? Is it like the number of, I don't know,
The,
apples you eat or something? Like, how does it come across?
no, the most recent one was an address. Like I dreamed of a friend of mine who's kind of dealing with something in her life. And I literally dreamed of her, and the numbers were 5599, which is all about freedom and completion. I was like, oh, thank God that relationship is going to get dealt with, so that she's dealing with.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like that. So there's the numbers, the repetitive sequences. In this case, she was moving to that address.
Oh, okay.
And then I remembered it afterwards. And of course, I interpreted it because I know what the 5 is, freedom, let me at it. And 9 is healing, completion, all that. So.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And just
Okay.
the feel of that dream was in conjunction with those vibes, with the energies behind those numbers, freedom, completion, all of that, which I was really thrilled. So I told about it. I told her about it straight away. I'm like, girl, you're gonna be all right. Yeah.
Oh no, that's awesome. So that's cool. So the numbers are coming through both symbolically, but then you're also feeling the energy of it as well, which is really cool because Biljana and I, our way that we perceive or how we get the content from our dreams are actually opposite. So Biljana is more on the feeling side, and I'm just like all about the symbols, and like every symbol means a little something. And I think it's because I like to solve puzzles as well, which is maybe the happy prefrontal cortex, perhaps. But
It's good though. It's good. If you're versed in that, it's good. I wish I was, because I'm like, what did that cockroach signify really? And then like I really go places.
Yeah, I often have like I can give this example. This is actually this would have been one of my like very, very beginning episodes before I met Biljana, but I had a dream and it was like, and this was earlier in my awakening process as well. And it was like I was in a garden that had rows of roses, and every single row, and I think there were 7 rows, every single row was a different stage in the rose's development, but it was all present in one spot. So you had like the little seedling and a little bit bigger, and then the one with the flowers, and even after when the flowers die and everything like that. And I woke up and somebody like, well, why would I have dreamt about roses? And I instantly was like, it's like every 7 years you go through, I think I forget what it's called, but the natives often have this like 7-year cycle where you're going through stages of growth and development and everything like that. And so that was kind of my feeling and interpretation of that dream.
That's but also how beautiful.
Yeah,
I just
it
kind of
was.
envisioned that. It's so beautiful. My goodness. Yeah.
I absolutely love dreaming. It makes me excited to go to sleep every night because you don't know what you're going to see, what you're going to experience. I've been underwater and able to breathe and just enjoying floating and swimming underwater. I've had flying dreams. I've had complete control in my dreams. And, I've also been pulled through a portal, and nicked my knee on the way out and actually felt the pain from hitting the edge of the portal. So,
Wow.
it's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm really fascinated by it, and just you don't know what you're gonna get.
No.
So good. The funny place is freaky, but hey, you can't really just go to the good places all the time. You got to experience all of it.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Where do we want to go now, Billy? I feel like we've got a couple more avenues we can go.
I've got a couple of things.
Go
Do you
for it.
dream journal, for one?
You dream journal? You keep a
So
dream
do
journal,
you?
or you have to?
Do you?
No, I knew you were going to ask me
No?
that
Okay.
though, because anyway, that's fine. I
Yeah, I
do
do.
journal. I
But
don't. Yeah. I do
Yeah.
journal a lot, but not dream journal. That would just put me in overwhelm because I have a journal for gratitude, I have a journal for like my daily, and I have a journal for my inner child and a teenager. So give me a sec to get a fourth one going, but why not?
Yeah, don't overload yourself. But no, I was just curious because do you have like prophetic dreams or like premonitions or anything like that?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it just
Yes.
come up like because I was just I've been looking into the like etymology of certain names. I went through like a bit of my family going through names and that sort of stuff, and something that I'd written in my journal, oh, probably 6 months ago, it just like popped into my head, and I was like, wow, so relevant about my nephew, just is 2 months born, and I looked
Mm.
up his name of what it meant. So his name's Luca, and it's derived from Lucas, um, and it's like one who brings the light. So if even people saying Lucifer is the light bearer, So it's all that coming from that name. And I actually had a dream about a baby of light. So
Mm.
I just wondering, if you obviously don't dream journal, but do you have any sort of dreams like that gives you information and then down the track you're kind of putting it together?
Yeah, yeah, I do have prophetic dreams, just like the one I said about my friend and what she's dealing with. Like, I know how that one's gonna go based on that dream. And about my own life
Mm.
too, of course. It's interesting because timelines sometimes merge, right? So you in dream states, you can't really say was that before, after, during, because that's how time li is. It's not linear, but of course when you wake up, it occurs that way, given our brain capacity or incapacity. But yeah, yeah, no, and the answer to your question is yes. And of course, the scientist is in me now wants to start journaling about it because then that will be a for sure way to find out and document this prophecy dream state thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I
So
absolutely.
don't
yeah,
think we're supposed to figure things out all the time. Like that's why I encourage people to like just write it down when you wake up, and if you don't understand it, like write down like the day, the time, even if you want to, if you're into the moon phases, put that down. Um,
mm,
any symbols, numbers, definitely how you felt when you woke up, that sort of thing. Because then
for sure.
down the track, it might come to you. Because a lot of like things that your grandparents or your parents have taught you, all these different sayings. It's not till you get older you just like, that's what they meant. So yeah, it's just a handy tool, just like journaling about gratitude and your inner child. So yeah.
Yes, no, that's great. I'm definitely taking that on without the overwhelm myself. I'm seeing how to integrate it first. I'll probably integrate it into my daily journal and then have a separate journal for itself. Um, but the thing that you said about so there's a lot happening, subconsciously. As a neuroscientist, I'll tell you that. You've heard it before. Like there's things that we're aware of, there's things that are in the background that we're not aware of that are running our life. And, over 90% of it is those things. So then when you're dreaming, of course, that's what comes through. So intuition, right? Intuition, your brain's always scoping around for things, trying to predict things because it is a prediction machine. It predicts based on past experience. So it's always scoping for stuff to kind of try to predict what next. Whereas when you're dreaming, yes, that predictive machinery is still on, but maybe without the prefrontal cortex activity, it allows you to kind of um, to explore that freely. And that's why you get things in your dream that, yeah, very much are running your life, but there's not the cage on it that is there during daytime or whenever you're awake, whenever you're not dreaming.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. It's just like it's stripped the layers back from the mental side of, this when we're awake. You can call it 3D reality, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's stripped back, simplified, like
Yeah,
when you're
yeah,
dreaming. That's why I feel.
yeah.
That's why yeah, it's it's refreshing. Like when I wake up and I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I'll take that on board rather than my monkey brain sometimes is just going in overload. And
That's
you just
it.
like,
That's
which
it.
way's up and yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it. Totally. So I think we're almost like our brain's almost our friend, is almost like more of a friend during sleep time when you do dream, because it's uninhibited from all that, reason, if you will.
I like that. That might actually be one of the shorts. Our brain is our friend when we sleep. Or definitely a
Yay.
quote. um, I had a question. It's going to take a little bit of a turn, and it's going to be heavy on the more spiritual side of thing. You know, this is a spiritual war that we're dealing with, and I was just curious if there was a neuroscience perspective to it, and if not, then just talk from either your own experience or just your own thoughts on that. And that is the idea that dreams can actually be manipulated by outside forces, darker energies, entities, that sort of thing. And the question is there any basis from your knowledge of the brain as to why that would occur, or can that even exist, or is that like, I don't know. I'm always torn because the way we've been brought up, the physical and the metaphysical are separate, but I do believe that they are one. Like they
Yeah.
coexist together. And I'm always trying to find that way to merge the two. And I feel like you might have a little bit of insight on that.
Sure. Okay. Well, look, the metaphysical is definitely here in the 3D as well. You can elicit it through the conversational domain or through looking at physics, Einstein, that kind of stuff, right? The 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 fact that any electron at any given time has only a possible placement. It's not like a definite placement until we manifest that shit into reality. Or, we create it or co-create it, however you want to say it. So that's the connect for me. And then I will connect it to what we said before. Like if your limbic system is what's running the show in the 3D, it's also going to be running the show everywhere else, whether you're conscious of it or not, because we exist in different planes all the time, right? It's just that right now our awareness is in this plane, like right here, right now. But it's not that I'm there, I'm not in the 4D, 5D, 6D, whatever, 15D, right? Or 12D. I don't know what the top layer is now, but um, you know what I mean? So if your limbic system, which I don't want to give it a bad rep, yeah, it's responsible for survival, but it's also responsible for emotions like love. Yeah. Love, maternal instinct, social activity. The limbic systems also plays a very major role in that too. But it's anything that has to do with emotions. So when they're fear-based, yeah, that's what you'll experience in your dream state as well. And if your brain is acting that way in the 3D, it's only acting that way in the 3D because all the other layers have compounded it to that state. All like the etheric, all the different outer layers of the energy outside of your physical layer have a flavor to them. So if your limbic system is active, that just tells me that your physical layer, the 3D layer is reflective of all the other layers. At any given state, I'm not saying, yeah, it could be a trend or a trend for a while or a trend for this morning, but maybe later you'll switch to a different frequency. You'll kind of adapt or whatever. You'll switch from your limbic system being in that fear-based flavor to you see something really nice, like a bunch of roses, so you're all excited. Then your limbic system acts a bit differently, and so do all the other layers. But ask me the question again so that I can bring more precision to it.
Yeah. I guess the crux of the question was more about the potential for entities and dark energies to influence and
Oh yeah.
manipulate your dream space.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're in dreams, if you're in that fear-based state and you're in that I'll call it victim mentality. I know the term gets thrown around a lot, but maybe people will get what I'm saying. Let's say victim mentality. You're like afraid, like that. That's the emotion that you're experiencing is fear. uh yeah, you're gonna, like, everything around you will be, again, by your brain, filtered to that, to express more of that. Your brain will focus on it, and then through the theory of, attraction, whatever you want to call it, like physics, metaphysics, you will attract more of that. You will focus on more of that, whether you're in the 3D, 4D, or whatever, any of the others. That makes sense to me. And of course, when demons and entities inhabit the 4D, and that's the state you're in, well, hey, there they are. And then if you're in victim mentality and you let them manipulate you, yeah, they're gonna fuck with you. But you can unfuck yourself. I mean, that's why you do that. That's, I know, very neuroscientific term. You can unfuck yourself at any given moment, but you really can. That's the whole basis of neuroplasticity, dude. Create a new neural pathway, get on a different wavelength, get from the fear related kind of emotion to a love-based frequency, like that.
Wonderful.
Ground.
Yeah.
And whatever way you want to use, whatever way you want to get there is up to you. And that is the beauty of the human experience. If you're into journaling and that puts you in that lovable state or filled with love, great. If you love interacting with animals, awesome. If you love getting, empowering psychic readings, fucking do it. Whatever you're into, that, or, social interaction is a really big one from a neuroscientific perspective. If you engage in positive social interaction that uplifts you, it doesn't even have to be verbal. Like, you can be sitting next to a person, or even long distancing, thinking about them or connecting them telepathically, however you want to socially interact. But positive social interaction is one of the best things you can do for your brain and for your life. So many ways to get to a higher frequency that can unfuck yourself.
Oh gosh, I really could talk to you all day long. You really just you're just awesome. I just have to say that. Just how you're explaining things from the science perspective and then the spiritual perspective. Like, you have really, like, the name of your podcast could not be any more fitting for what it is that you're all about in terms of merging neuroscience and spirituality, and just kind of, with, being a scientist, you're more focused on a physical reality anyway. So you really are merging or rejoining the physical and the metaphysical realms. And you talk very proficient in both of them. And it's awesome.
Thank you. I'm glad that that's, my mission on Earth is being heard. So
Yeah.
thanks for listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's been great. And you're gonna be on Angie Sudded Welsh. Ugh, I messed up her name. She's gonna, again, I'm so bad. But you're gonna be on you're gonna be on her podcast coming up soon, I heard. So I'm really
Yes.
excited for that one and all the juicy things you guys are gonna talk about.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. What date is
Yeah.
that one coming up? What date are you booked in to speak with Angie?
Oh, on the 5th of August,
Okay.
Australia time. So
Yeah,
Sweet.
cool.
around then.
Yeah, cool.
Fantastic.
I'll be able to listen in. That'd be good.
Yay. Do it. Do it.
Yeah. I do want to go back on the, like, we're talking about entities and that sort of stuff, and that's what we're attracting into our lives. And I say to people that our life is just a mirror of what we need to, you can say, heal, what we need to remember in ourselves. I say it like it's just mirroring back what we need to learn about ourselves. And
Mm,
some people don't really like that, because especially if it's something tough that they're going through. Um,
mm.
um, but also, like, everything in your life is an offer. You can accept it or decline it.
Isn't it great?
Nothing
Yeah.
happens to you unless you consent to it. Like, I know that that's still, like, can be frustrating for people, but it also can give you your power back, with your waking life and in your dreams. If you're having really bad nightmares, like, I've had conversations with my mum that she still has, trauma from whether it's growing up or her her marriage, you know, I say to her, I'm like, you know, if you empower yourself when you're awake, you know, you can empower yourself in your dream, and like, yeah. So everything is an offer. You can decline it if you don't like it.
Mm.
Um,
It's such an
yes,
empowering context, yeah, to live
yeah,
from, for sure. I'm
yeah,
yeah, I'll back you on that as a neuroscientist.
yes.
I
That's
back
why we've
that.
got yes, yes or no. There's no like maybe. It's like, do you want to go shopping today? Yes or no? You know,
Oh,
you can decide. You know,
that's it. If
you've
it's a
got the
maybe,
decision.
it's
Yeah,
a no for now. Like a maybe is a no for now. That's the reality. If it's not a yes, it's a
yeah,
no for now. Yeah.
yeah,
Love
yeah.
Forever for now.
So
What is time, right?
it.
Yeah.
so
Oh,
yeah, that's I just want to add to that. Like if people are having bad dreams that not necessarily they enjoy, and it's generally if they're like anxious during their waking life.
Yeah.
Yes, set that intention that you want to say no in my dream. You know, I want to say no to these dreams. You know,
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, no, look, I've had dreams when I wake up and I'm like, ew, like get off of me. Like whatever that energy or whatever that, like I think I shared with you before, not with you, Biljana, but I shared with you, Sarah. You know that dream when when I was brought into that meat purgatory, horrible place in the 4D. It was so gross. I was like, it was like Stranger Things, but the flip side, and like a bunch of human carcasses instead of animal carcasses. It was just gross. I was like, get off me. When I woke up, I was like, fuck, what's that place? Like I don't want to go back there. But I haven't actually gone back there because I've set an intention not to go back. There's not a place I want to go back to. Um, but also I'm so curious. You know, that's the way my mind works. I'm so curious. I'm like, wow, where is where is that? You know, that's the kind of flavor that it produced in me, in addition to the feeling of ew, grossness. I never want to go back there. But hey, that place exists and you know, been there.
yeah.
Not going back there. Not going back there. And so I've set up my spirit animal to never fucking take me there.
Please don't do
And
that.
she's been good to me so far. I've got a bear. I've got a bear and
yeah,
a couple of cubs as my
Oh,
dream state animals,
oh.
spirit animals. They're pretty good.
Yeah, I know that's amazing. I have a leopard and a cheetah, Mira and
Wow.
Lyra.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and their role is like if I go somewhere I'm not supposed to be, get me out. Don't let me go
Yeah.
there. Um,
Yeah.
it's funny you
But
said you started to say like, "Oh, Sarah, I told you about this dream," and I was like, "You did?" And then you started describing it more and more and more, and I was like, I think I completely blocked it out. I do remember it now, but like I must have been like, no.
yeah. Yeah, I don't want to go. That's right. I don't want to go there. Therefore, I'm blocking it out of my mind. But it's not a nice place, just between you and I. Not a
Yeah.
great place to go to.
You were gonna say something, I think, before I went on that.
I forgot. It's
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry.
And another thing with like people that might have bad dreams or even just when they're awake, just anxiety or anything. Do you have like tools that you to teach people of just regulating your nervous
Mm.
system and that sort of thing that possibly they could use before they go to sleep?
Of course. I mean, again, we're coming into this age of individuation, right? Individuality and what works for you, what might not work for the next person. But so you really got to explore what you're into. But I like humming. You know, humming is so easy
Yeah,
because it literally stimulates your vagus nerve, you know, the polyvagal theory, which gets talked about it. So the vagus nerve is one of the largest components of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest or digest, which, you know, is at play when you are resting or digesting or sleeping or relaxing or meditating. And there's many different ways to activate that system, and humming is one of them. I like humming. You know, I do like
yeah,
different little hums. You can do a mantra. I mean, singing also, it's really great for it, but humming for me really works. Or
yeah.
doing a
Try
little mantra.
thinking when you're like humming. It's hard. It's impossible. Like even doing like any
Mm,
breath work or like try think at the same time. So that's why
yeah.
it's so powerful.
Yeah, humming is great. And but I do like the horizon breath, which is it's a visualization as well as of a breath work exercise. Like when you do you picture yourself looking, I usually picture myself on a beach looking at the horizon, like a beautiful sunset. And then I breathe in for 4, but I breathe like in my visualization, I breathe the horizon and everything, all that energy into my being. And then you hold it for 4 and breathe out for 8, which is it's a standard breath technique. Yes, I know that, but paired with that visualization, I find it really useful. So I like that one. You're welcome to adapt it as well, however you like, with or without the visualization. Love that one. Those are my favorite. I mean, look, if you're into ice baths, by all means do that. I'm not into them.
Ugh, no.
No.
Too
Or
cold.
people love meditating, listening to like, music that really, music is a real, like music can literally snap you out of shit quick. So that's a really good one.
Mm.
Music. Um, Yeah, or bringing your attention to something tangible, if you are like you do, like, what can I touch, smell, or feel right now with my fingers? Yeah. Those are just
Yeah,
a few
because I
examples. Yeah.
yeah, because I used to do some like au pair nanny work, and the child that was looking after, like she hated going to sleep. And I think back now, I think she had bad dreams, like she'd be
Mm.
kicking and screaming to not go to sleep. And we
Oh,
tried, like having a diffuser, like different scents, nice relaxing music, or she was maybe seeing, spirits or entities in her room that just would scare her. Um,
yeah.
so that's why I ask, like if there's, children that are afraid to go to sleep.
Hmm. I mean, talking about what it would be great if you could provide a safe space for them to actually tell you if they're verbal, to find out what
Yeah,
is it. So then you can, once you get to the core of the thing, actually act on it. If it really is like a stress response, then yeah, humming and singing and whatever, providing a sense of safety is probably the optimal thing to do. But if she's seeing a fucking demon in the corner of the room, maybe, seeing an energy worker is probably more useful.
yeah. I love that. Like, opening up the space to like talk about it because, like kids, they are so like their imagination is still intact. So that's the perfect time to like talk about dreams. Is like yeah, it's so
Mm.
important. That's why I'm so
Yeah.
excited about a dream book. I'm gonna finish soon. I'm gonna finish soon for kids. Just a book that will maybe open up the conversation between parents and their children
Mm.
about their
Mm.
dreams and might help the parent remember their inner child of when they used to dream and their imagination and all that sort of stuff. So yeah,
Yes, 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 yes. And that's all part of this thing that I'm also obsessed with called epigenetics, which is the way that our environment shapes the expression of our DNA. And if you do provide a safe environment for your children, for yourself, then the expression of genes is going to be altered. You're going to be expressing less cortisol, all those stress related, hormones and stuff like that to serotonin, the happy molecules. That's what's going to be upregulated in a positive, safe environment for kids, adults, everybody involved.
Oh,
yeah, love that.
wonderful.
That's
Glad you
awesome.
glad you got to trickle in the epigenetics just a little bit because we
Oh,
hadn't really talked about it yet.
it's my obsession. It's part of my neuroplasticity and epigenetics 101.
Awesome. Um,
Well, that's why I wanted to share that. I don't know. Can we share that, Sarah?
oh, you need permissions or something? Sorry, should
Yeah,
have
because
done this.
I went on. I was like, oh, I was interested, and I thought to pull that up like the outline of your course. So if anyone's
Oh, yeah.
interested to
Yeah,
learn
yeah, yeah, yeah,
more,
yeah. Totally. I will run it again for the general public. I just haven't said those dates yet. I'll run it again but we can go over it. And once it becomes available, people should definitely come and jam. Because there's the content of it, but then there's the discussion that happens, during the course. And it's so mind-blowing. Like, given that who is in the course is just like, we really go places. We really go
Yeah.
places.
So, can you see that?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So that's the course, isn't it?
Correct. Neuroplasticity and Epigenetics 101 for teachers and healers. Look, it's open to everyone, but teachers and healers are definitely my target market because yeah, you get to kind of get the nitty-gritty of the neuroscience and the genetics and epigenetics behind your craft. And there's the very kind of elaborate explanation for what we do at each session. So it's a really great way to explore your craft, but also your life through that lens without having to do a PhD in neuroscience. So that's
Yeah.
why it's one of my offerings.
I know.
Hmm.
What did we do? This is
You're
funny.
giant and we're tiny people.
So I just stuffed up the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's
Hold
all
on.
right.
Let's see. Oh, there we go. That's better.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yay.
Oh my goodness.
But
This
yeah, I
is
just wanted to share that because yeah, it'd be just fascinating for people, and if you want to learn more, if you want to nerd out on that sort of stuff, it's good to have
Totally.
different perspectives. You can't have just one, just all in the brain, or just all spiritual. You've got to merge. You know.
Correct.
You,
Yeah, correct. You
yeah,
gotta, well, that's right. My whole mission is to marry the two, the science, the neuroscience with spirit realms, make them palpable. So, the two are happily married and ever forever after, whatever you want to say that. But it makes sense in your brain, it validates your experience, and then you get the 3D grounding for everything else that you can't explain.
yeah, because
yeah,
they definitely
yeah,
have been divorced over many centuries.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been in separation.
yes,
They're twin flames in separation. That's what they are.
Yeah.
yes.
Definitely. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Val, for coming on.
Oh, my
I
pleasure. It's been fun.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. We do have one last question, and we ask this to all of our guests. And that is just simply, is there anything on your heart that you would like to share with our audience today? Any final thoughts or words?
Yeah, of course. Get curious. Get curious about everything. I mean, curiosity puts you in a really, really high vibrational state. That sense of awe, the neuroplasticity will be off the charts if you get curious, you know. Yeah, curiosity. Get curious about your life, everything in it. Just like you can literally look at anything and get curious, and it's just such a fun state to be in, and it's also very antithetical to the fear state. And it's different from just, be loving. Like, I don't always want to fucking be loving, but I can definitely be curious.
Ah, wonderful. Absolutely.
Lovely. And also, if you want to share like how people can reach out to you, any socials, that sort of thing, we'll put it in the show notes. But if you want to share the easiest way to contact you,
Sure. It's via my website, drvalrytova.com, and via Instagram at love_of_brain. Love of brain. Probably the easiest ways to reach me. Yeah.
Ah, fantastic. It's
awesome.
been
Yeah.
I've had such a great time talking to you, and I won't get the episode out for like another day or so, but I wish I could just like snap my fingers and it would go up instantly, because this is definitely an episode our audiences are going to love and enjoy and appreciate and get a lot from. And I thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule of being a mom, and this like merger of bringing together the physical and the metaphysical. And just thank you for all your wisdom you shared today. It was absolutely fabulous. I learned so much. Thank you.
Oh, it's my
Yeah.
absolute
Thank you
pleasure.
very much.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know Biljana and I definitely enjoyed today's episode. Please, if you would like to be a guest on our show, we are definitely in the need for guests and looking. So tell all your friends, if you dream, you get to be on this podcast. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to have a passion or knowledge of dreams in some capacity. You can reach out to us at www.dreamoracleforyou.com. And you could also check out our dream portal. We've started a discussion group. Sorry, we've started a discussion group where you can talk about your dreams or ask questions and all of that. Thank you once again, Val. Thank you to our listeners and everyone. Please just keep on dreaming.